Hi, Martin.
Hi. Good evening, everyone.
We're live. We're live now.
Okay, 7 o'clock. Is a planning director here as well? Jessica, is Ned on by any chance?
Yeah, he's not in the meeting yet.
Okay.
He should be here soon. Please go ahead and get started. I'm sure he'll be getting on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we're going live. Thank you. And well, welcome to the City of Milpitas, June 24th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, and calling the meeting to order. Thank you. Will everyone join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? Will Commissioner Chua lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. And thank you, Commissioner Chua. And next agenda item, roll call with staff. Go ahead and do the roll call, please.
Yes, Chair. Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. Now taking attendance, Commissioner Blaza. I see that he's here. I'll come back to him. Commissioner Albana.
Here.
Commissioner Alcorn.
Here.
Commissioner Belong.
Present.
Commissioner Chua.
Here.
Commissioner Chuan.
Here.
Chair Tao.
Here. It's, I believe Commissioner Ablaza is on.
Yes, I believe so too. His microphone's probably not working. I'll connect with him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And the next agenda item here is conflict of interest declaration. Will the City Attorney poll the commissioners, please?
Yes, Chair. I ask whether any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest on any of the items before you at tonight's meeting. Let the record reflect none to that question.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. Appreciate it. And next item here is approval of the agenda. Staff, any changes to tonight's agenda?
No changes for tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Commissioners?
I believe our recording secretary said that one of the items on there, the approval for the previous meeting minutes, will not be approved tonight.
That is correct. So we will go ahead and strike the approval of the minutes from tonight's meeting agenda. Thank you. So do I have a motion with the correction reflected?
Motion to approve the agenda with the correction of the meeting minutes for the prior meeting to be added for the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and go down to the roll to the calls. Vice Chair.
Aye.
Commissioner Chua.
Aye.
Commissioner Chuan.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaza.
Aye. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. And
But I have no audio, video, huh?
you have audio loud and clear. Thank you.
No video.
You need to click on the click on the bottom of the screen. And Commissioner Belong.
Aye.
Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
And the chair, aye, with 7 ayes on the approval of agenda. Thank you. Next agenda item is announcements. Planning commissioners, any announcements?
Yeah, I have one.
Vice Chair, please.
So I just want to put on the record the chair, Chair Tao, and I and city staff had a meeting on Monday about it was part of our training as vice chair and chair. But in the meeting, we did touch a good amount on tonight's agenda, just with some questions we had. And I just wanted to disclose on public record that we did have a meeting. It was only the two of us. There wasn't a quorum, but I just want to put it on the record that we did discuss a couple items about tonight's agenda item.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other commissioners?
Sir Tao,
Yes, Commissioner Chua?
and
Commissioner Chua?
I just want to thank Planning Manager Jessica for emailing the Q&A that happened before the meeting tonight. That's helped a lot.
You're welcome. Thank
I
you.
don't know if everybody has read the email from Jessica.
Yes,
That's very helpful.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner
Thank you.
Albana. Thank you. Commissioner Albana?
Yes, thank you. No, I wanted to say thank you.
So noted. Okay, and I'll second the Vice Chair's comment earlier, as we were in the same meeting. And so that concludes the portion for the Commissioner's staff. Any announcements?
Yeah, just one quick announcement. Next Tuesday on the 30th of June in the evening, I believe we're starting at 6 o'clock, and I'll confirm that. The City Council is having another special meeting, and the primary item on the agenda is a presentation from the consultants for the Metro Plan, which is the task plan update. This will be our first meeting with the council, and we will be discussing some preliminary ideas and some of the feedback that they've received from their interviews with a variety of stakeholders. And so I just wanted to make the Planning Commission aware of that. I'll follow up with an email, but I think it would be very interesting if you want to listen in. This is an item that will eventually come to the Planning Commission. And I think if you listen to the various conversations and tune into the meetings as they go along, then you'll be familiar with the process and what we're doing there. Again, I'll follow up with an email. It's the Metro Plan or the task plan update, and that's next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Planning Director. Planning Manager, any comments?
No, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving on to the next agenda item, public forum. Those interested may address the Planning Commission in writing on any subject not on tonight's agenda. Commenters may type their name and city of residence for the record, and remarks read aloud will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Comments submitted via online form will be read aloud by the secretary. As an item not listed on the agenda, no response is required from the city staff or the Planning Commission, and no action can be taken. Planning Commission may instruct staff to place the item on a future meeting agenda. Staff, any public forum items?
I only received comment for the agendized item.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'm sorry, please.
Second.
Okay, the motion maker was, can you?
Commissioner Chuan.
Okay, thank you. And the second by Commissioner Chua. Okay, so I'll go down the line.
Yes.
So Vice Chair,
Aye.
Commissioner Chua,
Aye.
Commissioner Chuan,
Aye.
Commissioner Ablaza,
Aye.
Commissioner Belong,
Aye.
Commissioner Albana,
Aye.
Chair Tao, aye as well. Motion passes seven ayes. Thank you very much. And the approval of minutes has been deferred to the following Planning Commission meeting. So prior to the start of the public hearing, the chair would like to read off a couple statements here. And so prior to the start of a public hearing, chair would like to a moment to clarify to the public participating in this meeting virtually the role and the scope of the Planning Commission. If commissioners have any questions or requiring any clarifications from city attorney or staff, please so comment after chair has read off the statement. And the statement is that The Milpitas Planning Commission welcomes all public comment and encourages the expression of different points of view. All public comment should be given and received in a civil and respectful manner. The Planning Commission is empowered to make decisions or recommendations to the City Council on matters related to land use. Our primary tools are the Milpitas General Plan, various specific plans, and the zoning ordinance. The Commission does not make social or economic policy for the city. City of Milpitas review and approval process incorporates all applicable federal, state, county, local, and applicable agencies guidelines. Commission members are required to make decisions based on consistency with the general plan and zoning code development standards. Planning Commission members are reminded that they are appointed to serve the community and to make decisions based on the best interests of the community as a whole. While we welcome all public comments and diverse opinions, the Planning Commission should focus its attention on matters related to land use. These matters include land use compatibility, urban design, architectural design, traffic, circulation, parking, noise, community health, energy and water conservation, pollution prevention, public safety, economic development, and so forth. The city employs both full-time staff and outside consultants to provide professional analysis and recommendations to the Planning Commission so that decisions made are thoughtful, fair, factually based, and legally defensible. Commissioners, any comments or clarifications?
Yeah, I have a quick comment.
Vice Chair, please.
That is, it's a great reminder. And I just wanted to comment how I am very happy with our Planning Commission and proud of us. We have definitely seen our fair share of some controversial projects coming through our way, and we have always stuck to the facts and made our decision based on the facts and the findings. And that is a really, really important thing for us to do because our job is really important. And I'm very happy that we've done that. I agree with everything that the chair just said. I think it's very important. It's a great reminder for the public and it's a great reminder for us as well. But I think we've been doing a really good job so far. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vice Chair, for the comments. And any other comments or clarifications? Commissioner Blaza.
Me? No, I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. And anyone else? Seeing none. And so the next agenda item is public hearing. Planning Director, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight we have one item for public hearing on the agenda. As you saw in your staff report, this is an application to develop a new food, we call it a convenience food restaurant. In this case, the brand name is Chick-fil-A, with drive-through service, outdoor seating, and other site improvements as part of the town center zoning district, which is part of the town center which is surrounding City Hall. It's at the corner of Hillview Drive and East Calaveras Boulevard. And we have our senior planner, Michael Fasati, here tonight to present the staff report. And he's been working with the applicants and the consultants on this item for a number of months, and we're happy to bring it forward to you. So I'll turn the time over to Michael.
Thank you, Director Thomas, and good evening, Commissioners. I'm Michael Fasati, Senior Planner with the City of Milpitas. The item in front of you is an application for a site development permit and conditional use permit for a proposed Chick-fil-A restaurant at 755 East Calaveras Boulevard. Next slide, please. A site development permit is needed for the new building, while the conditional use permit is for the drive-through operations proposed for the development, as well as a shared parking exception. Next slide, please. This is an aerial image of the site. The parcel is located at the northeast corner of East Calaveras Boulevard and North Hillview Drive. If you were to go to this site today, you would notice an existing Big 5 Sporting Goods and Jenny Craig Weight Loss Clinic at this facility. Next slide, please. This is the zoning map of the property. The property site is zoned general commercial and is identified in the black outline. The project site is surrounded by general commercial on all four sides. And just for clarification, the green strip that is going through that, it's Berryessa Creek, is agricultural. Next slide,
Pardon me,
please.
Chair. Pardon me,
Sorry?
Chair. I had two requests. Chair, if you don't mind, if for those who are not speaking, if they don't mind going on mute, and then Mr. Fossati, if you don't mind speaking a little closer to your microphone, thank you.
Thank you. So if the non-speaking folks, if you don't mind going on mute, as Commissioner Tron requested, and then Mr. Fossati, if you don't mind, go ahead, crank up your volume a little bit so we can hear better. Thank you.
No problem, Commissioner Chuan, and thank you. Does this sound a little bit better first off?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So the site development permit is for the new building. Since the old building would be demolished, Chick-fil-A would actually remodel the whole site, which includes a review of the architecture, a site improvement, signage, utilities, drainage, and landscaping. The image above is how the site would be laid out. It's also known as the site design, with a new building, new parking configuration, trash enclosure, bioretention area, and landscaping. Next slide, please. The conditional use permits required for the drive-through operations and shared parking exception proposed by Chick-fil-A. The double-wide drive-through lane is for the drive-through operations. The shared parking is a request to allow Chick-fil-A to use Milpitas Town Center parking spaces and vice versa. Next slide, please. The following exhibit is a before and after image of the application, along with an image of their neighbor, which is 24-Hour Fitness. Both the applicant and the city worked together to design a restaurant that shared a similar architectural theme with Milpitas Town Center, as seen in comparison to the 24-Hour Fitness, and provides members of the community a place to dine comfortably, either inside, outside, or on the go. In the upper left-hand corner was their first submittal. The bottom image is the submittal that's being proposed to you today. Next slide, please. This is an image of the on-site improvements associated with the project improvements, which includes new parking striping, a new trash enclosure, new trellises, and bioretention areas for stormwater to run into, also new trees and landscaping. Although it's shown, a wall signage is not included within this application. The Chick-fil-A logo is demonstrated on the east, west, and south elevations in the application, but those will be filed with a separate permit. It's staff's belief the eventual wall signage will be similar to what's being shown on your packet. Next slide, please. As previously stated, the CUP application is required for the restaurant's proposed drive-through operations. As seen on the image above, Chick-fil-A has proposed a double-wide drive-through lane in order to increase queuing capacity. The lanes accommodate up to 28 vehicles without affecting the parking area. A description of the drive-through operations can be found on page 10 of your staff report. Next slide, please. The CUP application also includes a shared parking exception. It should be noted that all tenants for Milpitas Town Center are required within their lease to allow shared parking. An exception was required by the city because the project was deficient 6 parking spaces per zoning code. Per the parking study completed by Hexagon Transportation Consultants and included as an attachment within your packet, Milpitas Town Center, on average, would have up to 605 available parking spaces at its busiest hours. Those findings support the proposed shared parking exception. Next slide, please. Where there is parking, there's traffic. Traffic is a concern for many of us, especially since the application includes a drive-through component. In an effort to fully understand the potential traffic patterns, Hexagon, which did the parking study, also completed 2 traffic studies. The study demonstrated that there will be an increase to traffic with additional vehicles going to and from Milpitas Town Center, but the amount of traffic will not significantly affect the city of Milpitas' transportation network. Next slide, please. An area that has the potential to be affected is the intersection of the Milpitas Town Center East Driveway and a North Hillview Drive, as shown with the arrow pointing to that area. If the project were to be approved and no traffic improvements were to be made, the level of service at the intersection during PM peak hours, which I believe is from 5 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, would degrade from LOS B to LOS D, the level of service B to level of service D. An LOS service of D means that intersections still flow, but short vehicle queues develop and may have to wait for one cycle during short periods. You may have to wait a little bit longer to get out of the driveway. Let me see here. In the second lane, if a second lane were added, the overall internal circulation would increase, essentially making cars be able to leave the facility faster. For example, the outbound traffic from Chick-fil-A to the project driveway would increase from LOSD to an LOSB, with only slight delays in vehicle movements and queues. Furthermore, if a second lane were to be added, as shown in the example to the right, the overall internal circulation would increase even more by allowing outbound traffic from Chick-fil-A to the project driveway increase from LOSF to an LOSD. Essentially, it would allow more cars to leave Milpitas Town Center in a faster, more efficient manner. The studies show that this congestion only happens in the PM peak hours, so it should be noted that throughout the day, as well as the morning, they do not perceive this congestion to occur. These traffic impacts would not be foreseen at any other times of the day. Next slide, please. Additional recommendations made by Hexagon to allow better circulation to and from the site include clearer striping, directional arrows, traffic control signage, and pavement markings. These recommendations have been included into the resolutions as the conditions of approval. Furthermore, staff spoke directly with the applicant to let him know that these are some of the conditions we plan on implementing in the project. Chick-fil-A has agreed to those conditions. Next slide, please. If approved, the project, the applicant would pay into the Public Art Fund, the standard building permits and offsite improvements, if there are any proposed. The project is exempt from the affordable housing linkage fee, which exempts non-residential projects less than 5,000 square feet in size. Next slide, please. Findings have been made in the affirmative for the project as demonstrated within the staff report. Next slide, please. Staff has also determined the project be exempt from CEQA per section 15332 for infill development projects and section 15183 of the CEQA guidelines. It's also applicable for the CEQA exemption. Next slide, please. In an effort to obtain as much public input as possible, the city hosted an online public forum more than 3 days prior to the Planning Commission meeting. We also had postcards sent to neighboring households, both by the applicant and the city. The city received 13 responses, 12 over email and 1 over the phone. One resident was curious about the project. 9 were not in support, mainly due to traffic impacts and social political concerns, and 2 were in support with the belief that Chick-fil-A provides a quality product. All of those emails have been included as an attachment in your packet. Next slide, please. In closing, staff recommends opening and closing the public hearing, considering the exemption in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and adopting resolution number 20-006, approving site development permit number SD19-0009 and conditional use permit UP 19-0010, subject to the attached conditions of approval. This concludes that summary of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but furthermore, I'd like the Planning Commission to know that along with myself, Steve Chan, our city's traffic engineer, our Alex Andrade, the city's economic development director, Albert Zamora and Jaime Garcia with fire prevention are in the audience, as well as the applicant's representative, Ed Hale, Keith Gilbert with Chick-fil-A Incorporation, and Brett Walensky with Hexagon, the applicant's traffic consultant. I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fasadi. We appreciate your time this evening. And commissioners, questions. I will start with Vice Chair. Vice Chair, do you have any questions, please, for staff?
No questions for staff at the moment.
Okay, Commissioner Chua, do you have any questions? Commissioner Chua?
He's on mute.
Okay, no problem.
I have a quick question with Mr. Basadi, please.
Please go ahead.
Michael, can you please put up the traffic circulation slide that you had earlier?
Sure, Councilmember Chua. I'm not in operation of that slide, so I believe you're referring to this one right here. Oh,
The one, yeah, that one. Perfect. This one is good too. That one, either one is good.
awesome.
See, can you go back to the colored one, please? There. Oh, it's
Oh,
gone.
the satellite image you're referring to?
Yes, please. I'm concerned about if you can elaborate, because I know you went through this. I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. This one, if I'm looking on the right side, I would think that is the pancake place, correct?
Yeah, International House of Pancakes, correct.
The House of Pancake. I think I read all the feedback from the email from our residents, and I think mainly this one is an issue because I know I experienced this as well. If you're turning from Hillview, from Calaveras, and then turn right on Hillview and stop right there going to 24 hours or BevMo, that's a bottleneck right there. Have we addressed that with the applicant?
Well, just to reiterate, just so I'm on the same page, you're referring to coming off of Calaveras, making a left onto Hillview Drive, to making a left
Making
making a left into the project driveway. That's
Okay.
the concern, correct?
That is one, because another way is coming from 680 going to Calaveras and turning right to North Hillview Boulevard and left on Town Center. And the one that you said is coming from the opposite side, which is also true as well.
Okay.
So have we addressed this?
Well, what we've done is, and traffic can kind of elaborate, but I'll take a stab at it. What we've done is they've determined how many new vehicle trips are going to be proposed. And during peak hours, there's going to be an increase of vehicle trips. I believe the congestion is less about turning left into Hillview Drive and more turning out, leaving from the project driveway to Hillview Drive. So the improvements that are being proposed are to allow cars to leave Milpitas Town Center rather than enter Milpitas Town Center. Does that answer your question?
What do you mean leave?
So what I'm saying, leave the site. If I'm hearing you correct, once you're on Hillview Drive and you want to access a 24-hour fitness, you got to turn left into the driveway.
Correct.
Okay. And there are times where there's multiple cars going into Milpitas Town Center.
Right.
What I'm sharing with you is, per the reports, there's a greater concern about cars leaving Milpitas Town Center, that the amount of trips going into Milpitas Town Center, there's going to be an increase of vehicles, but there's a greater increase of vehicles leaving the Milpitas Town Center, and that's where the improvements were to be made.
I see. I got you. Okay. I see. That is a good point, because that is true. That is true. The cars leaving from the town center through this exit way is really the bottleneck. So what are we doing about that again, please? I know you mentioned this. I apologize. Please reiterate one more time.
Sure. And if the IT can change it to the next slide where it says traffic and circulation. Thank you so much. So right now, you couldn't notice it on that satellite image. And bear with me, I'm trying to speak up loud enough so you can hear me. There was only, on that satellite image, there's one lane going in and one lane going out of Milpitas Town Center. what Chick-fil-A's proposed, because of the conditions of from Hexagon, which makes recommendations, is to add a second lane to allow a right turn only. So there's two lanes leaving onto Hillview Drive instead of one current lane. So instead of having a long line of cars just trying to get out to left or right, you're going to have the ability to get two lanes with a car to turn right or a car to go straight or a car to go left.
I got you. That's good. That's a good one. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very good.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you,
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Chua. Commissioner Chuan, any comments for staff?
I don't. I actually wanted to hear, any comments from our traffic engineer before I have any questions there. I think the traffic engineer had a hand raised on the Zoom.
Okay, please, the traffic engineer, so Mr. Chan, if you would
Yes,
like to.
this is Steve Chan, city's transportation and traffic manager. In regard to Commissioner Chua's question about inbound traffic to town center, the applicant's site design did address that. So as you can see, the first intersection off at Hillview, we are proposing, or the project is proposing, a keep clear pavement marking at that intersection to allow traffic to turn into the Chick-fil-A site without being blocked by traffic trying to exit. So the applicant did address that with his project, so that traffic flow to this new business will not impede, traffic coming to the rest of town center. So in addition to addressing traffic exiting town center, the applicant's site design also address inbound traffic into town center as well.
Thank you. Does that properly answer your questions, Commissioner Chua?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That's Commissioner Chuan, please.
No, I just wanted to hear what the traffic engineer, the comments were, and if he had any, presentations as well to, go further into the, traffic and any findings. I'm assuming that that's coming up as well. Maybe that's a question for Mr. Pozzati. Is that a part of the presentation as well too, is for the traffic manager as well as Hexagon to go over the findings that they've had in their reports?
I believe the traffic manager and Hexagon are both here to answer any particular questions specifically about traffic. They're kind of at your disposal, but I don't believe they have a presentation.
Okay. Well, if it's all right, I'd like to, maybe if they wouldn't mind just covering their report, like how the report was done. Because I realize in the past, some of the reports that, have been done generally have been, they were based on prior data. So I guess I want to understand if, any of the reports, if he doesn't mind covering the reports and how the, traffic survey was done, and just go over that.
Definitely. I believe Mr. Malinsky.
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. My name is Brett Walensky, Hexagon Transportation Consultants. We did the traffic impact analysis. So I'm gonna walk through sort of briefly what the traffic analysis does. The first thing we did, we started out back in July, and we undertook a process where we looked at some data we had, mostly based on ITE traffic data. We assigned that traffic out to the roadway network. We looked at all the streets that where the traffic was gonna go. And we ran the calculations out at the driveways, where we look at the delays and the level of service, and we compare that to the acceptable delays and levels of service that are in the city general plan. And where there's inconsistencies, we call those things out as being impacts. And so the one area that really stood out for us with regard to offsite intersection impacts is that coming out of the site without a second lane outbound onto Hillview from the town center, the delays were going to be very, very long. And we thought that that was going to create problems for the site, and potentially, as you know, if the delays get too long, then it's an unsignalized intersection. People start pushing gaps. We want to make sure that people can get in and out at that location very quickly and easily. So we made the recommendation to make sure that there was an additional lane there outbound, and that basically reduced the delays to acceptable levels. The second thing that we looked at very carefully, and there's a big issues with popular food chains, is the drive-through. And we have data from 5 different locations, and about 40 hours worth of peak hour surveys looking at the queues going at the queues within the drive-throughs at the Chick-fil-A's. And we wanted to make sure that those queues were not going to back up onto the public street system and create problems for existing users on Calaveras and Hillview. And the way that the site is oriented, you can see that the entrance to the drive-through queue is all the way sort of away from Hillview Drive, so that the traffic has to sort of loop all the way around. And that gives a lot of additional queuing space for vehicles when they try to go through that drive-through, to make sure that they don't spill back and block any traffic on Hillview Boulevard. So we looked at that very carefully. And like I said, I think we did the data that we were drawing from had over 40 hours worth of surveys of Chick-fil-A uses, all in the Bay Area. So we did make a bunch of recommendations just with regard to the signage and the ingress and egress as you come out onto the town center drive. We worked very closely with Steve Chan, city staff. He was very instrumental in helping come up with a design there that worked really well for traffic flow. So we also did a parking study to make sure that there were enough parking spaces in the town center, because, you know, if the delays in the drive-through get very large, then, you know, it's conceivable that people just want to go park somewhere and walk in instead. Sometimes it's faster, and there's adequate parking in the town center. In fact, that the parking field in front of 24 Hour has, on even during the highest, or I should say, the period of highest use in that parking lot, still had 150 vacant spaces in it. So there's plenty of parking there for patrons to come in and park if they don't want to wait in the drive-through, if the drive-through line gets long. So that's I guess a quick summary. If there's any other details that you want, I'm happy to elaborate on anything I just said.
No, I appreciate that, Chair. That was really the main thing I wanted to just get, hear from the both Hexagon and as well as Steve Chan, our traffic manager. So those questions I had were answered in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chuan. While we have the Hexagon consultant here discussing the item, if the commissioners don't mind, I jump in on the follow-up question to the Hexagon discussion here. So the concept here is that you enter, if you're doing the drive-through, you're coming in from North Hillview, you circle around the parking lot on the outer ring, and then you enter the queue on the Calaveras side of it. Is that correct?
Yeah. So you're gonna come in off of Hillview. You're gonna well, some people are gonna come in off Hillview. Some people may come from from other parts of the center. But for the people that come off Hillview, they're gonna come in. They're gonna make a left or right off of Hillview. They're gonna enter the site, and they're gonna make that first left. And then that first left is a one-way aisle, and it comes all the way down to you get to kind of parallel Calaveras, and then you're gonna make another left in the parking lot, and then that takes you to the start of what's a dual entry or a two-lane drive-through. So that drive-through has a lot of capacity because it's 2 lanes. It's not just your typical 1-lane drive-through; it's a 2-lane drive-through. So
what I want to make sure of, sir, is that in terms of the entry point, the entry path to the drive-through, whether it's a single lane or double lane operations, depending on the time of day and how busy it is, that from the other direction in front of the restaurants, that's not the drive-through approach path, that and then there's clear markings or way signage that's clearly indicating that, or there's no entry onto the site from that approach.
Yeah, I'm not. There is clear signage, or there are pavement markings. You can kind of see them on here, but certainly I don't think anybody would be adverse to additional wayfinding in terms of making it clearer for people or how they get in and out of the site. And I think for the most part, when it comes to these types of uses like drive-throughs and fast food restaurants, I mean, most people are repeat customers. I mean, they come there and the first time maybe they struggle a little bit, and then over time, obviously they sort of learn the drill and they learn what aisles to go down and that sort of thing. But certainly in the early going, there could be some benefit to maybe having some people out there directing them so that it's clear, or maybe adding additional signs, just letting people know that here's how you access the site to make that first left. Okay,
thank you. And that's a question I have for the time being.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner
Mr.
Chua,
Chair.
Commissioner Chua.
Yes, I have a follow-up. I have a follow-up question with Mr. Wolanski.
Sure, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Wolanski.
Yes.
Hi. You said that you use 40 hours of Chick-fil-A's usage in terms of drive-thrus, the data that you use. Do you have any statistics like how many has two lane drive-thrus versus 1 lane? And if you use that data.
Yeah, so I think what we're doing is we were counting the number of vehicle queues, whether it was 1 lane or 2 lane. And so I don't have that data in front of me in terms of which, I know that the studies that were done comprised both 1 lane and 2 lane, but really what we're looking at, what we're measuring is the number of vehicles, not anything else. So whether it's 1 lane or 2 lane, we're looking at the total number of vehicles that are stacked. So if it's only 1 lane for a Chick-fil-A, it means that the queue is likely to be twice as long, right? So if it's 2 lanes, it's going to be shorter, right? So when we look at the data, we're counting for all the different Chick-fil-A's. There's let me just rifle it through here. There's one in Sunnyvale, 1 in San Jose, 2 in Fremont, and 1 in Santa Rosa that were all looked at. And basically what they did was every half hour, they noted what the maximum number of vehicles queued in the drive-through were. And that ranged, the maximum average was about 21.3, and it ranged from about 12 to 34. So if you look at what they're providing 28, which is just in the drive-through itself. And then if you take the space beyond the, or I should say, from the entrance of the drive-through all the way back through the parking lot, you can get another 14 or 15 vehicles in there before you even start impacting the public street system. So that was the sort of the method behind the madness about why, or the way that the site was laid out. And we do have a lot of data on how Chick-fil-A's operate now, that there are a lot of them out there. So 40 hours worth of data counting queues is actually, it's a pretty good sample.
You see what I was trying to do? I was trying to compare like one lane versus 2 lanes. What's the decrease in terms of the number of cars in the queue? That's what I was trying to do.
Right. So basically, if you have 2 lanes, you have double the capacity. So you're less likely to get queue that spills out onto the public street if you have 2 lanes versus 1 lane. But when the surveys were done, they were. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh,
sorry.
But when the surveys were done, some of them had 2 lanes and some of them had 1 lane. But the thinking is that because we were just looking at the number of vehicles actually queued up or stuck in the queue, that's sort of a worst case scenario. If the service flow rate is better because there's 2 lanes, then that can only work in this site's benefit.
So in your statistics, there is like at 12 to 34 cars in
Yeah,
the
that's the
queue.
range of queues.
So-
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I would think because your data is mixed, because you have a single and a two lanes.
Mhm.
Okay, I see. But that's good. But that's good that you took that data and you work with our Mr. Chen for coming up with this solution of 2 lanes. Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you. No problem.
Thank you, Commissioner Chua. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Commissioner Chua. Commissioner Blaza, please. Any questions? Commissioner Blaza? We'll circle back to him. And Commissioner Belong, do you have any questions, comments to staff?
I just had one comment. The 2 current businesses that are at the current location, are they removing to open spaces in town center?
Sure, I'll take this, Commissioner Belong. I haven't been able to contact Jenny Craig. I know Big Five, they are looking, they do really like Milpitas, and they're looking to relocate to another location that meets their needs. To date, they haven't found one, that, from my understanding.
I was just curious. That's all I had, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Albana.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I wanted to ask Mr. Walensky. I was also just thinking about the safety and also, of course, the traffic. That was very nice that there's a 2-lane exiting out from the center, and then a 1 lane going towards, like, if people wanted to go to 24-hour fitness. I have noticed, because I'm a member of 24-hour fitness, there are people that are rushing in, rushing out, the speed. Is there such a manner that the speed will be controlled now in that 3-lane in and out exit place? I don't know if it's you, Mr. Walensky, or somebody else. Like, is there going to be like a 15 miles per hour, 5 miles an hour in and out?
Yeah. Can you hear me, everybody? Sorry, there's a lot of static on the line right now. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr.
Okay. My apologies. So, typically when you're coming into a parking lot, it's in a situation like this, you're going to enter somewhat slowly. But when you get going, like, in other words, if there's no conflicting traffic and you're headed down a long straight aisle, people have a tendency to sort of, pick up speed to get where they want to go. And that does happen from time to time. But you'll notice that the more traffic there is generally, the slower that people go, just because there's no passing in parking lots. I mean, you have to sort of slug along. We didn't propose any changes to the town center circulation other than the ones that you see here before you. But if something like that became an issue, then they could look at something like speed humps or something if there were locations that perhaps people were going a little bit too fast.
Oh, another question. I see an arrow exiting out from the drive-through. Can the arrows, like, can you turn right towards exiting to Hillview? And can you also make a left, like you want to go back to 24 hours? That's going to cause a little.
Yes. The way that this is striped and what I don't know if Steve Chan, do you want to jump in on this real quick?
So if you follow that right turn, U-turn arrow going back to Hillview, that's a right turn only movement. So they can't make a left directly off of that right turn lane. However, if you're coming through the drive aisle and want to continue to the, west of town center, you could go straight and follow that aisle back towards the backside of Chick-fil-A and exit that way. So the idea is that keep that, right now, that keep clear internal driveway intersection as clear as possible by restricting that left turn movement and also striping it to keep clear to allow traffic to come in without being blocked by traffic trying to make a left turn into these aisles. So that's the intent of this striping and circulation of this site.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yes, that's good safety too. Yeah. So, yeah, I have no other questions. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Albana. Commissioner Blaza, have you joined us, rejoined us? Okay, sounds like I couldn't raise up Commissioner Blaza. I'll go ahead and do my questions with staff. So for Mr. Fasadi, what are the proposed signage and way signage, in terms of the, because I think for this particular site here, there's a little bit more dynamic movement and a little bit more complicated movements. So are there additional signage that assist the patrons or other site users?
Yes, there are, Chair Tao, and the signage itself pretty much mimics.
Mr. Fasadi, if you can speak up a little bit, appreciate it.
Is that better?
A lot better.
Awesome. No, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. So the answer is yes. There is additional signage proposed. It's actually going to mimic the pavement strikings and the arrows associated that are on the ground. Typically, in other words, if there's a sign that's going to be adjacent to a right arrow turn, it's going to say turn right. But
okay.
All the signage being proposed is used for two reasons. One, just to efficiently get cars to and from the site and to just promote safety associated with pedestrians walking around the site that potentially could walk from 24-hour fitness to Chick-fil-A.
So beyond the arrow signage that's on the flat surface, the vertical signage in terms of a lighted signage pointing at the drive-through patterns, are those intended?
Correct. They are intended. They're one of the conditions. When appropriate, additional signage, physical signage, like a pole going up.
And we have multiple signs so that there is sort of a guiding of the ways without people having to think where the heck they're headed, right?
Agreed. Yes.
Okay. Is there so in other words, the parking with respect to the town center, it's all under same ownership. So there's secured agreement with Chappelle with regards to the overflow parking going onto the site outside of the project area.
Yeah, just for the commission's information and everyone, we typically don't have that luxury where there's two separate property owners. This being to the same property owner for both parcels and a condition of the lease itself, all use Safeway, Bevmo, 24-hour fitness, Chick-fil-A, so assuming they secure a lease, are required to allow shared parking.
Okay, and going back to the markings on the ground, the arrows and the movement denotations, are these painted on, or are these stripe, or these stripes that which are glued adhered onto the flat surface?
I'd like to defer to Steve Chan on that. Whatever's most appropriate, Steve. Can you?
So, Steve Chan here. In answering that, typical pavement marking is either by paint or thermoplastic. The applicant has not indicate which preferred method or material they're going to use, but we have the option of either using paint or thermoplastic.
So, so for Mr. Chan, I think my personal preference is towards the thermoplastic, in that it has a long longevity and that maintains its white clarity a lot better. I would anticipate this site here will get a fair amount of drive over usage, and one way to keep everyone well pointed. And thank you, Mr. Chan, appreciate it. On the staff report, going back to Mr. Fasadi, on the staff report, page 15 of 16, if I may point you to that. Um,
Okay, I'm on page 15 with the public comment, environmental review conclusion.
That's correct. And under the public comment outreach section there, I think there's a typo there. So due to the COVID-10, I think we have reached COVID-19.
Much appreciated, here. Thank you, Chair.
Not a problem. Just want to make sure you're not asleep on the job. Thank you. And if we can make that correction. Also, on the page 10 of 16 of the staff report, we have it denoted, the double drive aisle has a full capacity of 28 vehicles. So this is accounting for a reasonable distance that's between the two vehicles that's parked one behind the other. The way this is set up this is almost like the ideal world that we can almost never achieve.
Sure, but I believe it's set up, and I kind of like the rectangles around the vehicle itself to demonstrate 28 vehicles could meet that capacity.
If I understand correctly from reading the staff reports, is that the right drive-through lane is only operating when there is a perceived backup or a long waiting queue going on, then it will open up for that particular purpose. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. And what is the do you know, has the applicant share with you what is the threshold on when do both barrels are firing? Both lanes are operating?
Threshold
in terms of like how many cars are in the queue before you go to double lane?
I don't believe they have an exact number. I think they're looking for the flexibility to use that double lane during those peak hours.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The next question here is for the Hexagon consultant, if I may. On your October 29th report, where it's noted in terms of the 100 or less in terms of peak hour trips, is there any consideration for like the opening up operations where you have a surge conditions, and how do you manage? It's not that the normal operation, I guess this commissioner is concerned. It's really where you have the normal operations and times, and that the surge traffic. That usually that's where things get interesting.
Are you referring to like an opening day type situation where it kind of opens up? Is that kind of what you're saying with the surge?
Opening day, or you have a high demand holidays or whatnot. So it's right now it's basically you're anticipating that the peak is at 100 or less in terms of the vehicle trip count. But
right.
But we're kind of planning for that as the majority of the times, and also what is the modus operandi if we have peak, say we have 150, how do we, because they're so popular, how do we handle that?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so let me take the first part of the question, which is hey, what do we plan for? I mean, how do we why don't we just look at the worst day of the year and kind of like build our models around that? And I think that the bottom line on that is that there just isn't it's just too expensive. It's not economical to build infrastructure for sort of the worst case traffic scenario. And so when you look at the sequence studies and you look at the traffic planning, what they do is they kind of look at the average steady state. And there's going to be variability in that. Sometimes it's going to be higher, sometimes it's going to be lower. But on average, we think it's going to be, about that number based on what the data are telling us. It doesn't mean that there won't be fluctuations, and it doesn't mean that there won't be periods where there aren't 150 trips. Those sorts of things, certainly can happen, and they likely will. It just means that by and large, the vast majority of the time, it's going to operate acceptably. And there may be short periods of time, just because of variability in data and special events and those sorts of things, where the queues in traffic can be a little bit longer. And that's just how traffic works. I mean, we see it when we go on the freeway. Sometimes there's an accident, sometimes there isn't. And so I think what Chick-fil-A's tried to do here by opening up by having the dual lane drive-through is to give them the flexibility that if there are these surges and things, that they can try to accommodate that by essentially running food out to the cars and clearing them through quicker, so it doesn't create an operational problem.
Sure.
And I think really, from their perspective, I mean, they want their customers to have, a good experience too. And the town center doesn't want their circulation mucked up either. So everybody is really sort of incentivized to try to make this work. If that makes sense to you. But yeah, I mean, your question, go ahead.
Absolutely. I fully understand that. I just want to make sure that, that consideration and that there's that overflow capacity, that the site is big enough to absolutely handle that. But where does that stack happen? For the operator is really what the issue is. This site is fortunate enough to have, such an extraordinarily large parking field. You can stack them pretty much anywhere, but it's really
right.
Have a plan for the operator be in place for it. Another question for you: assuming that the parking, because of the drive-through, and stacking, just say that it's busy and that some of the parking spots are not reachable, so the patrons, reach out to the general parking, outside of the project areas. Are there pedestrian movement or sort of markings on the ground that which provides a sensible walking path from the other part of the shopping center site to this location?
Yeah, so we talked about that with the city traffic engineer about whether we should provide a crosswalk across Hillview, and we were looking at the pedestrian demand to see how much it was. And then, there's also a tendency that if you throw crosswalks into, at sort of uncontrolled locations across busy locations, that you can actually make it less safe because people just see the crosswalk lines and they walk out into traffic. And so I think the thinking here is that this is a parking lot, just like any other parking lot, and that people are going to filter through the parking lot the same way that they filter through, the rest of the town center lot, that it's all one big site, and that if people want to go from different spot to different spot, they have to navigate through the parking lot as if they're just walking to their car.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate the comments. And next question, circling back to staff. Mr. Fasadi, looking at the site plan, we see like 2 bicycle racks that's placed out by one of the entries near Calaveras. Is that the minimum required under the current code?
I believe so. Yeah, 4 bicycles.
Okay. Has there been any discussions about possibly, since we have another entry that's on the drive aisle side, possibly for the applicant to consider additional bicycle parking racks? Just wonder if that conversation is taking place.
I could say it has not. It definitely can be. It would be right in front of the entry or one of the entries, but that can definitely be discussed. Yeah,
sure. I mean,
adjacent to the, outside of the bike racks, that would be adjacent to the ADA parking, if I'm not mistaken. There may be some reasons why it can't happen, but
okay.
The relationship with the city and the applicant have been definitely fair, and it's my understanding, and they can speak to it, that they'd be open to that conversation.
Absolutely. And then in terms of the outdoor seatings, site plan showing we have 10 outdoor seating tables. Approximately, what's the sort of the distance between the tables? It kind of circles back to the, the line of thinking here is, COVID is a unfortunate illness that we run into right now, and the outdoor seating is very much a 6 feet apart situation. Yeah. And so if we were to place the outdoor seatings, if we have the ability to modulate, it seems like there's additional free areas. If we can make sure that we don't know how long COVID is going to be with us. Hopefully not long, but in the long run, I would like to see the outdoor dining have that dual purpose versus the middle one has to be blocked off because it doesn't meet the standards that we encounter at this point.
Chair, I a rough estimate. I do recall the outdoor dining area being approximately to 300 to 400 square feet. I'm optimistic on the 6 foot of distance can be accommodated.
If I can address that as well, at present, the city has a registration program for any outdoor dining that applies to existing dining, future dining, any outdoor dining under the current health order by the county. So hopefully we will be out from under that order as soon. But I just want to assure you that if there's any outdoor dining in the city, it has to abide by the 6 foot rule, and we review those as part of the registration program.
Thank you, Planning Director. I'm just kind of looking at this as, hey, we don't know whether we ever going to have to re-encounter this COVID situation again, and the social distance is a defined path to get some distance between the people. And if we have a distance, if we can take advantage of it, so that we're better situated, at a future point in time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And if I can circle back to Commissioner Blaza, do you have any comments? Commissioner Blaza? Okay. I do not hear it.
Mr. Chair, can I ask something?
Is it Commissioner Chua?
Albana,
please.
Yes. I wanted to ask Mr. Walensky. I had a quick question. What is the capacity, or seating capacity, inside capacity that we have, or we're planning to have? Oh, did I lose?
Did you say seating capacity?
Yeah, seating capacity.
I think planning would be able to answer that.
Oh,
we looked at square footage, and we looked at the sort of overall what Chick-fil-A's generate. But I don't have the seating number in front of me. Maybe Michael has it. Let me look around on my reports to see if I can.
Commissioner Albana, no, that's right. That's more for planning. At 94 seats.
94. Okay. No.
Yes.
Okay. Then I had another question for Mr. Walensky. But I see the arrow on the north, southeast, on the west side, the arrow where you're getting ready to enter into the drive-through. For example, if a customer decides that they do not want to do a drive-through and they want to get out, where is the flow? How do they get out, or how can they make a left out to the parking lot?
Yeah, so good question. So if they're headed towards—
Is there a way to make a left? If you have a change of mind?
Yes. So if you're heading towards the drive-through, say you're heading eastbound towards the drive-through, and you decide you don't want to enter the drive-through, then you make a left, and now you're heading northbound. And then when you come out, this is kind of what Steve Chan was referring to. When you come out, if you want to go back into the parking lot, into the town center, you go out, you exit Chick-fil-A, and you go left, and you go straight southbound through the one-way aisle, and then you make a right out towards town center. Or if you want to go out towards Hillview, when you're coming northbound through the site, you just go straight to that dedicated right turn lane, and then make a right onto Hillview. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the only problem is when you get stuck already, you're inside here, like where you're about in the area of that, where the queue starts, you're You'd have to take the, where you have the parking for the bikes, and then you just have to loop around already because that's one way, right?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple of things that happen. I mean, if the queues get long enough and there's vacant parking spaces, you can turn around in the vacant parking spaces. I mean, that would be one way to get sorted in and out. The other thing is, you're right that it's kind of, circuitous to kind of have to go around if you want to get out of the town center and you don't want to go out on Hillview. You got to make the left and then make another left and head out that way. But I think that the idea was that the clarity of the directional arrows and making everything very clean in terms of like, one way in, one way out, those sorts of things was more important than anything else. That sort of trumped the efficiency of trying to sort of, move around. We just want it to be clear how people are going to get to and from the site.
I like that efficiency that they even thought of having the, a 2-lane, because then that will ease up the flow of the traffic coming in and out. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair, too. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Albana. And if I can invite the applicant, and if you have a presentation or speak to the project.
This is Commissioner Chuan. I had a quick question in regard to the traffic flow here, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, Commissioner Chuan, please.
Just a quick question. So, since we're talking about the flow, let's assume that a customer goes through, and then towards the end, they realize that maybe there was a problem with the order. Sometimes that happens. They did something incorrectly. Where would and I guess this question's for either Hexagon or Mr. Fasadi. Where would sometimes I notice like the fast food drive-throughs, they would have a place for you to go ahead and, okay, we made a mistake on the order, we'll come out and bring it to your car. How would that flow go? Would they just go straight out through the arrow? Because I realize that there's two ways. Once they're at the very end, they can either turn right and then do another right, or they can go straight. Is that how the flow is the thinking for that, if there needs to be a correction on the order?
I'll try this one, Brett. So if there's a correction that needs to be made on the order, I believe they'd be on the closest, if they were to the window, the pickup window, and then realized right when they're about to leave, oh, I need a correction on my order. That's my understanding. They could make a left into the interior parking lot. Because either that, or again, they can go straight and go turn left again and park at one of the offsite spaces or the internal space. The whole idea, what you don't see in most driveways nowadays, and I can say this firsthand, is there's only one lane. And so the one lane that you have, if you realize you have an order or an issue, you have to go park somewhere else. Remember, this one's going to have 2 lanes. That second lane is going to also be open for a car to go out to. I do recall the applicant saying that if there's an issue with your order, and more if the order is relatively large, and they know that once you get to the window, it's going to hold up some people, that you can go to the right into the second lane while you let other cars going through. That doesn't answer your question about if there's an order issue, but that's one of the things you can do. But again, I believe you can stay on site and just go straight instead of going right back off the Hillview, make a left, and then park in one of those diagonal spaces.
Okay, and actually that did answer my question. That was the exact scenario I was looking at. If you had an excessively large order, something wasn't ready, you got there, and then oftentimes you go to a fast food place, if something's not ready, they usually allot a parking space, that say, hey, go park over there and we'll bring the order out to you. So that was my specific question. So I guess the options here are you can go straight, or park in one of the outside parking lots, or even turn into one of the interior parking lots to get the order. So you answered my question. Thank you.
Great. I mean, just for clarity, so we're on the same page. Yeah, definitely. When the order is taken and they already know it's going to be large, and they already know they want to get you out of the way, they're going to direct you to the outside lane. that discussion has been had with Chick-fil-A, and that's the whole reason to their double wide, dual lane aspect.
Okay, all right, thank you. Chair, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And going back to the applicant, would you like to make a presentation or make some statements? Thank you.
This is Ed Hale with 4G Development Consulting. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Commissioners, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Ed Hale, and I'm with 4G Development Consulting. Our firm has had the privilege for now over 12 years, developed in the restaurant, quick service restaurant or convenience food industry. We have the distinct pleasure of representing Chick-fil-A and their development applications throughout the Western United States. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Fossati and the development staff. I've developed all over the state of California and have been doing so for a number of years. And the experience that we've had with the planning staff here has been superior. And that's just plain California, let alone the Bay Area. I know that the Bay Area has a well-deserved reputation as a difficult place to develop, and I've been developing in the Bay Area for a number of years. And so Michael Fossati is to be commended, and Director Ned, I'd like to just let you know how much we've enjoyed working with him and working through a number of the issues that the commissioners have. I'll give you credit as well, commissioners. You've asked a lot of very good questions, and I was very happy with how Michael answered those questions. I did take a few notes during your questions, and I'd like to address a couple of those. What we call the dual lane or the two at a time ordering expansion of our drive-through is a result of the experience that we've seen of our drive-through queue backing up out of the drive-through area. Chick-fil-A makes a fresh sandwich. We don't drop the chicken into the oil until the customer has ordered the chicken. We're not like some of the other restaurant firms where they make the food ahead of time. So because of that, we like to get the order processed as soon as possible. And so the two at a time ordering was initiated to accommodate that, to get the order processed sooner so that there were fewer occasions where the food was not ready when the client or the customer got to the drive-through pickup window area. We've also added along there an opportunity for the operator to send a cash runner along that line to process payments so that when they arrive at the food place during the food delivery window during higher operational tempo, that there doesn't have to be two interactions at that time, one to process the food payment and the other to deliver the food, but that can all be handled before the food arrives. So simply all they're doing now is just confirming the order and then delivering it to the customer. Michael is correct. During most operational periods of time, when we're operating, the cars will narrow down to a single lane after the two at a time ordering. They'll narrow down to a single lane and pick up their food at the window. And if there is a delay in preparing their meal, they'll be directed to the outer lane where a crew member will then physically walk out and deliver the food to them in the second aisle. In those rare occasions when we do mess up the order or the customer recognizes that there's a problem, or maybe they thought they ordered a chicken sandwich without cheese and one was with cheese, and now they've got to correct that order, the crew member would direct them to one of the parking spaces in front of the store that's designated for that purposes. And then they'll take note that that's where the customer is. They'll correct their order, and then the crew member will walk them out and apologize for the error, and then they can be on their way. Chick-fil-A is really very concerned about the overall customer experience, and it starts with the first appearance of the drive-through all the way through to the actual time it takes to process the order, and of course the interaction with the crew members themselves. Chick-fil-A is noted for their high quality of customer service. So things like the way signage and the painting on the surface of the parking lot We will be using the high quality thermoplastic with reflective paint. We maintain that. We're more likely than most restaurant companies to go out and repaint to make sure that that's very clear, because when you have covered up or chipped paint on the concrete, it smacks of inattentiveness, and we don't want our customers to have even a subconscious question as to whether or not that we're being attentive when we're preparing their food. So I can assure you that making a requirement for the high quality paint on the surface, that's not going to be a problem, because we were going to be doing that anyway. Same thing goes for the way signage. We're very sensitive to our customers' experience. We know that a parking lot can be busy, and so we want to make it very clear. And we've been operating restaurants all over the country, and we're an expert at getting them in and out of that drive-through as quickly as possible. The bicycle racks question came up, and whether or not we would be open to additional bicycle racks. Of course we are, but we would really appreciate it if the commissioners would give us the option of adding those bicycle racks if and when the demand materializes. If we find a number of people coming to the store on a bicycle and they don't have a bicycle rack to lock their bicycles, then we will put more bicycle racks on there. We won't need the planning commission to come back and tell us to do it. Again, this is a customer service issue, and we'll be happy to do that. But we would rather not be forced to put any more bicycle racks than the minimum at this time, just so that we have that option later. What we don't want to do is take up valuable space in the front of the store with bicycle racks that are not going to be used. But we would certainly be adding more if they were needed. And that same thing goes for the dining room. We would prefer to design the dining room to the current codes with respect to the fire department exit, egress and ingress. There, we certainly are sensitive to the current times right now with spacing, et cetera, but I think what we'd like to do is we'd like to be able to design the outdoor dining and the indoor dining the way we would any other store. And then we'll close off those spaces as needed during exigent circumstances. But I don't think COVID's going to be with us forever, and we may have some periods of time when we revisit this again, but we don't want to put temporary furniture out there and take it in and out every night. We'd rather have it be so that we can design it for a more permanent solution. And if we have to space and then come back and forth again, I think that could be expensive and difficult. And I think that's about it on the questions that I saw come up. Otherwise, Michael, you did a really great job of answering the questions. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. And then also, we're privileged to have Keith Gilbert, who is a development lead. He's an actual employee of Chick-fil-A with their development department. He's been with them for a number of years, and he might be able to also answer any questions regarding operations.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate your statements and answering a number of our inquiries. I'd like to kind of go down the line. I'll probably reverse direction this time to see if commissioners have any questions for the applicant. Commissioner Albana, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I'm next. Can I pass for now? Because
Sure.
I had poor connection.
Commissioner Belong, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I have none at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blaza.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, no, I don't have any questions right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Chuan?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Alcorn?
No questions at this time.
Okay, and back to the chair. So questions to the
Mr.
applicant. I'm sorry.
Chair Tao?
I think I accidentally skipped over you. Commissioner Chua, please.
Yes, I do. I do have a comment, please.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hale?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Chua, you're resonating in the background. So where you were at the beginning of the meeting was good. Right now, it's not very terribly good.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll circle back to me, please.
You're fine right now. So if you'd like to speak, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hale, I do agree with what you said about having the minimum requirement on bikes, like 2. Mr. Hale?
Yeah, that would be 4 bicycles. Each bicycle rack can accommodate 2 bicycles.
Right, 4. I mean, 2 bicycle racks. And I also agree with designing it in terms of no COVID, because if we design it based on COVID right now, it's going to be temporary. And I know it's going to be difficult. And I've seen this I recently went to our great mall, actually yesterday and today for the first time in 3 months. And they were able to cordon off the seating arrangement perfectly, that nobody can sit there because of our COVID requirements. And I'm pretty sure you can do the same. So I do agree with the design, not temporary design, but permanent design, but no accessibility until we're clear. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Chua. And so, question for Mr. Hale and other applicant with Chick-fil-A. So, in terms of if a drive-through customer with a large order is placed and then he's directed to the right lane, so how does the employee traverse from the interior out to the exterior in order to the drive aisle lanes in order to deliver the goods?
Very good. That's a great question. So Chick-fil-A has recently rolled out a very innovative new system at the drive-through window. The drive-through window also functions as a door. And so depending on whether or not the customer is right at the window and they're going to deliver the food over I think they call it a Dutch door, where you reach over and just hand over. But if they have to exit and go out to the vehicles, they can simply push another button and that opens up, and now they can walk out that same window space area and walk out to the vehicles. Our crew members, when they're walking around the vehicles or anywhere near the vehicles, are equipped with safety vests, high visibility reflective safety vests, and they will make their way over to that customer. During higher operational tempos, we're going to have crew members out there anyway. They're all communicating with one another with two-way radios. So, for example, if the order is not going to be ready, typically the crew member that's already out there among the vehicles is going to identify the car. The order will say, the red Volvo, for example, their order is not going to be ready yet. So then he walks up to the red Volvo, confirms that they're Joe on the, is your name Joe? Hi, Joe. Listen, your order's not going to be ready yet. Can you please move over to the right lane? And a crew member will be out there shortly with the order, and then they'll walk out through that door to give them their food. So
from the sound of it, there's a camera that was placed in the drive-through area so that the operator of the drive-through ordering process can clearly identify the vehicle that may have to be queued into the wait cycle, right?
Well, I want to be careful about representing the use of cameras. We do have cameras mounted on the outside of the buildings, but usually that's for security purposes, not necessarily for operational purposes. But so, when you order your chicken sandwich, they'll say, "Can I have a name for your order?" And you say, "My name's Joe." Okay, so now Joe goes on there and they'll put the license plate or the color of the car or something like that on the order. Then later on, when the order is not, if it's not ready, then they'll say, "Hey, crew member Fred, let the red Volvo know that their order is not going to be quite ready yet." And then he'll go over and walk over and say, "Hey, your order's not going to be ready yet, Joe. Why don't you move over?" It's not like they're going to be monitoring visually as much as they've got it, as part of the ordering system, and the crew members are talking to one another. It's very dynamic, and it's actually quite impressive. My son, who's now 24 years old, he started his career working at a Chick-fil-A here in my hometown where I live. And he rose all the way up to a supervisor. And he was really proud of how fast they were able to deliver the food to the customers, which, by the way, only had a single drive-through lane. So,
well, dynamite.
New development.
So, Mr. Hill, next question here is: I appreciate your elucidation there. Appreciate it. On the flagpoles. So, I assume that just a single flagpole, right?
Yes, usually that's the case, and I believe that's what
Okay.
we discussed here.
And what flag is being proposed to be flown at the flagpole?
I'm going to ask Keith Gilbert to respond. I'm not sure if we've got a policy on what they do fly for sure. If Keith Gilbert could be activated and allowed to answer that question.
Can you hear me? This is Keith Gilbert.
Yes, if you can speak up just a little bit more, we appreciate it.
Sure.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us. I just want to reiterate what Ed has said in regards to the help that the planning department has been to us. I think they've really challenged us in a number of ways to get us to this point. And I think that the end product, what we're presenting here, it's not what we initially planned on. And in the end, I think we're really happy with what they've helped us design here. To answer your question with regards to the flagpole, we put up the United States flag. I don't recall if we've ever put up a California flag as well. I know the United States flag. Some operators may put up a state flag, but I don't think that we do.
Okay, great. And if it's a United States flag, I assume that's going to be intended to just be flown at a continuous basis, continuous cycles, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Question to both the applicant and staff: is there an uplight designated for the flagpole? Because I think the federal law mandates such.
Yes, so Chick-fil-A is well aware of the U.S. flag code with respect to the display of the hours, lighting, as well as the maintenance of the flag, et cetera. It will be well lit. That'll be part of our sign application. When we put in a sign application, that's typically where the flag goes, and that's where the planning department typically will check to make sure that we've got adequate lighting for the flag.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the comment. And circling back to Mr. Hale's response earlier, I'm completely confident with regards to the response of a future point. If demands arise on the bike racks, then you respond at that point in time. Just want to make sure that we have a dialogue at an early process. So if demands arise, we have an ability to meet it as such. Mr. Gilbert?
Chairman Tao, I just wanted to clarify something that Ed had said in response to your question. Ed had mentioned the fact that we would be running orders through a door out to the drive-through. That is what we do in all of the states outside of California. However, in California, the health department will not allow us to do that. So I just want to clarify that's not what we do in California specifically.
Okay, Mr. Gilbert.
However, we do have an order expediter, a team member who will be outside running orders to cars in advance of that window. Like Ed had mentioned, it's very competitive amongst the operators to see who can get the most cars to that drive-through as quickly as possible and accurately. And so they're very, very innovative in coming up with ways to get cars on and off the site as quickly as possible.
Sure. So the expediters would essentially get an order from the window itself or somewhere within the premise, and then bring it out to the vehicles.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question. I'm getting a feedback.
So just to tag on your question. So the expediter is grabbing the food order for the customers. Is he grabbing it from the takeout from the drive-through window, or is he expediting it by walking directly interior and then exiting the building to deliver the order?
That's a great question. He is taking it directly from the window.
Okay, all right. Question for staff. Does fire department have a concern with regards to sort of that cross traffic pattern that's being discussed here?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Members of the Planning Commission, this is Albert Zamora, Deputy Fire Marshal. I'm here together with Assistant Fire Marshal, Chief Jaime Garcia. I'll just speak to that and I'll defer to him on any other questions. We don't have anything at this time with regards to any kind of interferences. Obviously, there will be a level of flow with regards to patronages and the flowing of the cars going in and out of the driveway. So in case of an emergency, when we have the horns and bells going off, obviously it's incumbent of any of the patrons, especially in their vehicles, to go ahead and make way for fire department vehicles if necessary. So that's kind of the long story short on that. Is there any other specific questions to that other than what I just responded to?
Thank you, Assistant Chief. We appreciate your comments, and thank you. Thank you for your time. And Mr. Gilbert, if I can circle back to you one more time. And with regards to the lighting for the exterior of the building, what's the general theme here for the exterior lighting program?
We're going to follow the city's requirements in terms of lighting. Our preference is to have the building as lit as possible, with still maintaining any of the lighting requirements that we're not letting any light filter off the site, etc. But we prefer the building to look really well at night, plus the safety of our customers and team members. We want to make sure that it's lit well.
Are there any pole lights for the parking area which is being designated at this point?
There would be pole lights, yes.
Okay, all right. And give me 1 second. I'm lost my location of the question here. Okay, I think that does it. Thank you very much, Mr. Gilbert, and I appreciate your time. And I think was it Commissioner Blaza that was skipped over earlier, or Commissioner Albana? Do you have any questions?
Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, Commissioner Blaza, please.
I finally got my system to work. Okay.
Dynamite, welcome again.
Okay. I don't have any questions at the moment.
Okay, no problem.
Everything.
Thank you. And Commissioner Albano, do you have any questions?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And
Chair?
Vice Chair, please.
Thank you very much. I just want to first check with our Deputy Fire Chief really quick. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
How you doing today?
Very good. It's been a long day, but yeah, I'm more than happy to be.
Wednesdays are long days for everyone, from what I've heard. I think for you guys, it's every day is a long day, though. Mm-hmm. So I know you said you didn't have any concerns about the flow of traffic in the parking lot. Did you have any concerns with the project at all, or anything past the recommendations already that kind of sparked concern on your end?
Not directly, but I would like to defer to our Assistant Fire Marshal. He's been the project manager from the very beginning to the very end of this project. So I'll defer to Jaime Garcia, our Assistant Fire Marshal, if you will.
Okay. Is he on the call right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. My apologies. Can you repeat the question? I'm kind of on the wireless and it got disconnected for a second.
Oh, absolutely. I heard Deputy Chief say that he had no issues with the parking lot and the flow of traffic. And I was wondering if there were any issues from your guys' end that didn't get discussed and wasn't in the recommendations, or any concerns that might have kind of came your way.
Well, first of all, it's good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. No, we have been in direct contact with Steve Shand, traffic engineer, as well as with the planning department. The aisle that is in front to the west side, where is obviously the main entry for the restaurant, that needs to meet, and it's been designed to meet the fire department access in reference of the turning movements and all of that. And then as we move north, during the construction process, we are going to make sure that we are able to make all the turns necessary at the, where we kind of separate the traffic from obviously a left and right. As of right now, technically they're kind of a schematic, but once we get into the construction details, we will take a real close look at that and to make sure that we are able to maneuver the equipment through there. Also, the fire services for this particular building are going to be located off of North Hillview Drive. So in case of emergency, there's hydrants and also the fire department connection at that point. So we have been in very close contact with traffic engineer Steve Shan and the planning department. So we've been on board throughout the whole project.
Perfect. All right. Well, you answered my question. Thank you very much. Just want to make a comment to the applicant and also city planning staff. I appreciate all the thought that's gone into this. I know it's been kind of a long process, but I really like the end result. It's come out looking pretty good. It looks like to me pretty much everything has been thought out and researched, and you guys put your heads together. So I appreciate all the work that you guys put into this. And that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And if I can circle back with the applicant with the Chick-fil-A, and just want to touch on the hours, both on the delivery hours and also operating hours. Sir, if I may cue you back on the queue.
Sure. As far as operating hours, they are typically 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. In terms of delivery, those range. We try to bring them in off hours, but there is no set specific time that the delivery truck would come in.
So the delivery folks are your own Chick-fil-A drivers, or are these suppliers from your supply chain?
They would be a vendor. They're not Chick-fil-A employees.
Okay, from your usual operating standards, these folks try to avoid during the high demand peak hours, I would assume?
Exactly. We don't want them to impede any of our patrons during peak hours, so we'll always try to bring them in off of peak hours. Sure.
And going back to the operating hours, is it 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
11 p.m.
11? And you don't serve breakfast, is that correct?
No, we do.
You do? Okay. And
Yeah.
then the breakfast, sort of the peak times, is it breakfast peak times, is it primarily drive-through, or is it a walk-in scenarios?
Well, I wish I could call it a peak time for breakfast. Unfortunately, in California, a lot of people don't realize that we serve breakfast. But if you go to the South, breakfast hours are extremely busy. So there really is no peak. Yeah, I would say that our breakfasts are amazing.
Yep.
But people just don't know it. And so there really is no set pattern, I think, when it comes to breakfast. We have people that will come in and dine inside the restaurant, and others that'll do the drive-through, maybe on their way to work.
Well, Mr. Gilbert, I think I just gave you the platform for a little advertising there. So, and in terms of your sort of midday, generally the lunch hours, what are your peak periods, and you're designating employees to be outside to be assisting drivers through the drive-through queues, I assume?
I would say our peak is 11 to 1 in terms of the afternoon. In the evening, there really is no really defined peak. It kind of gets spread out. So it's maybe not as much as the afternoon peak, when you have a more concentrated number of people coming in for lunch. Dinner can be spread out over a number of hours. So as far as us having team members out in the drive-through, there is no specific rule of thumb. Every operators, they operate these stores on their own and come up with their own plans and how they want to be the most efficient. I would say that typically, anytime cars start to stack up anywhere near the entry point, you're going to have team members out taking orders upstream of even the menu board. Like Mr. Hale had mentioned, we want to take the order as soon as we can, so that we could even hand out the somebody's meal even before they even get to the drive-through window.
Okay, so from the sound of it, this is a franchisee operation at some point in time.
It will definitely be a franchisee.
Okay, and all the conditions then is inured upon the operator at that point in time.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. And any other questions from commissioners for the applicant?
I had a few questions for the applicant, Sheriff, if I may.
Absolutely, Commissioner Belon, please.
Yeah, and thank you on the delivery question, because I had the same question. I read somewhere that you guys use fresh flowers in the food and produce at the store. Are all those items locally sourced, or, I mean, where are they coming from?
Regarding the flowers, the local store operators is purchasing those. I'm not sure where he's getting them. I would assume they're getting those locally sourced. In terms of food, we do locally source produce.
Okay. And then I also read that the store could possibly be bringing 80 to 100 jobs to area residents with competitive pay and benefits. I'm just curious on what the benefits are.
Oops, sorry. In terms of benefits, I should know this better. My daughter just started working at Chick-fil-A. So yeah, the competitive pay for sure. We're going to meet minimum wage standards. In benefits, I know that there is paid time off depending on how many hours they're working. So in terms of other benefits, there are a lot of scholarships that the operators are handing out to local team members. I think last year, the number just in California was over 100,000 given to team members for college tuitions.
Awesome. And I read someplace in the dining rooms you have USB ports and electrical plugs. How do the stores usually handle loitering guests? People just hanging out and using the power and things of that nature.
There really is no policy with that. I know personally, I've used it and I loiter there and do work inside of a restaurant. So there really is no policy with regards to that. We just want to make it a good experience for the customers. And I think providing those kind of ports is one of those little things that we can do to just make that stay there better.
Well, thank you. And that's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And hearing that no other commission questions, and this being the public hearing items. And
Chair, I wanted to note you had Planning Director Thomas. He had his hand up, and then also wanted to note that Economic Development Director Alex Andrade was also on the line as well too. I didn't know if he had any statement. Anyways, that was the only comments I wanted to.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Appreciate it. So if I can go to the Economic Development Director Andrade, if you have any comments, please.
Good evening, Chair.
Yes. Mr. Andrade?
Can you hear me okay?
You come through, but kind of faint. So if you can direct your microphone a little bit closer to your to the speaking part.
Absolutely. Can you hear me better?
Perfect. Thank you.
I was having a little bit of connectivity issues right there and then. Good evening, Chair Tao, Vice Chair Alcorn, Planning Team and Community. My name is Alex Andrade, Director of Economic Development. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this project. Chick-fil-A has been operating in the Greater Bay Area for many years now. They currently operate 13 stores in and around the Bay Area. From a strategic perspective, Chick-fil-A looks at available properties from a strong curb appeal and efficient drive-through opportunities, which you've been talking about this evening. They've been researching sites around Highway 880 and 680, corridors south of Fremont for some time now, and this particular site works really well for their operations. Chick-fil-A is ready to invest long-term in the community as well as in a partnership with Chappelle as the property owner. In terms of jobs, and we were just talking about this store will create approximately 60 to 80 part-time jobs. It'll also include some full-time managerial positions. I bring this up because in the current COVID environment that we're in, our unemployment rate is 12.5%. Just to put that into perspective, the Milpitas unemployment rate has been hovering around 3% for many years now. We did talk about hourly rate. Of course, our current minimum wage is $15 per hour. On July 1st, it'll increase by 40 cents. So it'll go to $15.40 per hour. I am feeling pretty good about their having to surpass the minimum wage because they'll have to obviously hire talented individuals. On a positive front, Chick-fil-A has been listed as one of 3 restaurants on Glassdoor's best places to work. I'm encouraged about the hiring from the local Milpitas community. Remember that it'll take construction to get this moving forward, and it's been estimated that about 100 construction jobs will be generated. It's no secret for us that sales tax and hotel tax has been decreasing even before the current pandemic commenced, which really takes me to my next point. The current health and the economic crisis is affecting the city in many ways. One of those is the continuing reduction of sales and hotel tax. This store is expected to be a high-grossing Chick-fil-A and one of the top performing stores in the Bay Area. While Chick-fil-A representatives do not know exactly how the store will do in revenues, their annual average revenues equal $4.2 million per store. This is my opportunity to campaign for Shop Local. For the city, they receive 1 cent for every taxable dollar. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot right now, but at the end of the fiscal year, we're talking about $26 million in total sales tax. So please shop local. But anyway, we do think that this store is going to do especially well because the location is so prominent. I asked the Chick-fil-A representatives recently about safety protocols related to COVID. And as an essential business, they learned a lot in the last 3 months. They have indicated that their drive-through systems have become more efficient, resulting in quicker service. And they also offer mobile orders as well. They're focusing on keeping their employees and customers as safe as possible. So it's important, and this came up earlier with the other tenants, we're talking about a business attraction effort with Chick-fil-A, but it is important to not forget the other businesses. So it's also a business retention component. Big Five has been a strong community partner, and I learned from Thomas Jaja of Chappelle that they're talking to Big Five representatives to see if there's an opportunity to retain them within another location that they own. I also would say that successful economic development is based on sound relationships. And I was pleased to learn that each operator lives and works in the community where their restaurants are located. So they're highly involved in the day-to-day operations. So this will be good for the city and for the community overall. This project improves the town center as a shopping center as it activates the southeast corner of the center, creates new jobs needed during the pandemic, generates revenues, of course, the city needs to fund community services, and creates an opportunity to develop a mutually beneficial relationship with the city. So for these reasons, the Office of Economic Development strongly supports this project, and I'm happy certainly to take any questions you may have. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Director Andrade. Appreciate your presentation. Commissioners, any questions?
Just a comment, Chair Tao. Planning Director Thomas had his hands up for some time, so I just wanted to let.
Absolutely. Director Thomas.
Thank you. Alex said a lot of what I was going to say in support of Chick-fil-A from an economic development point of view. I just wanted to point out, I appreciate the comments from the applicant regarding the collaboration that they have had with staff. We have been working with them for a number of months, and Alex mentioned the reason, the Economic Development Director mentioned the reason why this is such a prominent location in the city. It's part of the gateway coming off the 680, and of course, Calaveras Boulevard is one of our main thoroughfares through the city, and it is a main corner for the town center development. So we did spend an extra amount of time. I'm sure that the applicant felt like we were beating them up at first as we worked with them on building design, parking design, and the design of the drive-through. But I'm very pleased with, they were very good to work with us, and I think we've come up with a project that will certainly complement the town center and be a great benefit to the city of Milpitas. We went around the area and took pictures of several different Chick-fil-A's, from Sonoma County all the way down the 101, and we made sure that we got a design that was one of the better ones. So we again appreciate the work that we've been able to do with the applicant on this project.
Thank you, Director Thomas. And any other questions?
I have a quick comment.
Vice Chair, please.
I just wanted to give a comment to Alex. One, loving the beard. Think you should keep it. It's looking good.
Thank you.
But no, thank you for that presentation. Whenever you present something, I feel like you're answering questions that I didn't know that I had. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. No, that was all good info and good stuff to know about this. And I definitely see the partnership between this franchise and this company and the city of Milpitas and the property owners. So, and I'm glad that they're working with Big Five to try and find a new location for them, try and retain them. Big Five is a part of Milpitas history. They've been there forever. So I'm glad that they're working with them. So just thank you again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And do not see any additional comments from commissioners. So this has been a public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing segment?
I don't think we need one, but I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
And the second?
Second.
Did I hear Commissioner Chua's second?
Yes.
Okay, all in
Yes,
favor?
Chair Tal.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
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 Thank you. Staff, understand we have a number of public comments, and if I can ask staff at this time to read off the public comments for this hearing item.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
We received public comment at 7:06 from Tony. And he states, I do not think that Chick-fil-A should be allowed to open here in Milpitas. In these trying times where so many are striving in search of justice and equality, they have shown that they do not agree with such sentiments, with their actions and affiliations. If they do build here, I will be boycotting their business, asking everyone I know to do the same.
Well, thank you, staff. And as the statement earlier this evening, read off by the chair, the Planning Commission was not germane to the item in terms of oversight on items discussed by this comment. Thank you, and please.
So we have 3 more comments, 2 of which are from the same person. So I'll read his first comment.
Thank you.
And we received this comment at 7:13 from Urvish Kumar Mehta. To Milpitas City Planning Commissioners and staff, it is request that Milpitas Commission consider the plan to evaluate the grocery vendors within City of Milpitas, examples Whole Foods, Sprouts, and 99 Ranch. As the neighborhood is expanding, having grocery stores in different zones would allow citizens to have grocery done at local store. Your consideration to matter is appreciated. Thanks, Urvish Mehta. And our last comment of the evening that we received at 8:05 is from Kevin K. I am an ex-employee at Milpitas Big Five and worked there for 7 years. I can say after seeing the blueprints of the Chick-fil-A that you are making a mistake. North Hillview can be a dangerous road to turn onto from the parking lot. The cars driving down North Hillview are rarely driving the speed limit, and while not a complete blind turn, it can be difficult for drivers to react if they take the turn too fast while someone else is exiting the parking lot. Not only that, but once 24-hour fitness and Bevmo were put into the parking lot, the traffic, both foot and vehicle, became clustered and dangerous. Cars and people very rarely following any kind of safe. Adding a constant flow of traffic with the drive-through will do nothing but congest the area even more. I heard on the meeting that people would only have to wait one rotation at the intersection. I have been stuck at that intersection over 5 minutes before. I want to know what they would consider a normal rotation time so we don't have to worry about impatient drivers running reds on for food. This isn't even taking into consideration the black stain Chick-fil-A has on its own. There's a negative comment about the corporate owner. I wish not to say out loud. Do we want a business run by someone outspokenly anti-LGBT in our community? Also, I heard in the meeting someone state that Big Five was looking for other opportunities in Milpitas. And to my knowledge, with the people I still know in the company, that is false or hasn't been given knowledge to anyone at the store level. I want to make sure that those claims are backed up before we lose another sporting goods store in the area. That's it.
Thank you. And in terms of the social context comment, that's not within the germane review aspect of the Planning Commission, and so we will not comment on that particular items. So, City Attorney, I see you're on here. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, just to clarify for the commissioners that their role here is looking at the use of a site. You know, it may not always be a Chick-fil-A located there. The commissioners are to look at the operation and not the operators involved. I'll just remind again that the planning commissioners are appointed to use the general plan and zoning standards in their decision making.
Thank you, City Attorney. And any other public comments?
That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. And do I have a motion to close the public comment?
Motion to close the public hearing.
And, okay. And the second's from Commissioner Chuan. Commissioner Belong?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So public comment section closed. So
Chair?
Yes.
Before we get into any other comments, I know we in our Zoom chat here, I wanted to just read aloud the comments so they're on public record. I know he'll have an opportunity to speak, but I just wanted to read the comments in this little chat so that they're stated on the public record, if that's okay with you.
This is that for the Mr. Gilbert?
Yes.
I'm ready to invite him back on.
Okay, I just wanted to read what was in the chat. That way, exactly what's in the chat is on the public record, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And then if he has any more to add, he's more than welcome to chime in. So it looks like it was a correct and elaboration on what he was responding to Commissioner Chuan. He just said, I want to correct something and provide more information in regards to your question. Employee benefits are at the discretion of the operator. Typical benefits are health insurance, 401k, and scholarship opportunities. Last year in California, we issued over $650,000 in scholarships. That is a correction to the $100,000 that he said earlier. And since 1973, we have provided over 75 million in scholarships. I'm guessing that's nationwide. And then that's it for what was said on the chat. So everything on there is now on the public record. And thank you for letting me do that.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And if I can go ahead and invite Mr. Gilbert back on, and if there's any other clarifications he would like to make.
No, thank you for putting that on the record, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And commissioners, the public hearings, public comment sections closed, and discussions amongst commissioners or motions.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Belon, please.
Yes, if there's, if there's no comments from the commissioners, I'm ready to adopt the resolution. If I make a motion.
Absolutely, please.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 20-006, approving site development permit number SD 19-0009, and a conditional use permit number UP 19-0010, subject to the attached conditions of approval.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. And Commissioner Belon's a motion, and a second by Vice Chair. So I'll roll down for the votes. Vice Chair.
Aye.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. On the motion, there should be, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
On the motion, I think we're missing the exemption of CEQA.
Staff, can you comment on that, please?
No, it says consider the exemption in accordance with CEQA and adopt resolution number 20-0006. I think that exemption is right there on top, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the motion started with the adoption of resolution number 20-006. It did not address the exemption in accordance with CEQA. That's all I'm trying to say.
Is the exemption of CEQA within resolution number 2006, or is that something we should add into the motion?
I would just restate the motion. You could add that in there. I mean, it's already included, but just for clarity's sake, we can
I like that in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Commissioner Belong, will you restate the motion, please?
Yes. Considering the exemption in accordance with CEQA and adopt resolution number 20-006 and approving site development permit number SD 19-0009 and conditional use permit number UP 19-0010, subject to the attached conditions of approval.
And as the second maker, I re-second that.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I'll roll down the for the vote. And Commissioner Vice Chair Alcorn.
Aye.
Commissioner Chua.
Aye.
Commissioner Chuan.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaza.
Aye.
Commissioner Belong.
Aye.
Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
Chair is aye as well. So congratulations. The motion passes 7-0. And we wish the applicant and many successes that they will find in the city of Milpitas in the coming years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to having you as a wonderful citizen of this community here and in the many years to come.
We are happy to be here.
Thank you. By the way, Director Andrade, like the new look. Okay.
The beard looks good.
Thank you.
COVID face covering.
The next calendar, next agenda items, new business, and see no items. And so I'll read off the legal needs now. Is that any person aggrieved by any final decision of any board, commission, or department head to the city of Milpitas may appeal the decision to the city council by filing written notice of the appeal with the city clerk within 12 calendar days of the date of said decision and paying the required fee. This time limit shall be strictly enforced. And the next agenda item is adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you very much. And just a reminder to the commission, July is a recess month, and the next commission meeting will be the appointed August time. And thank you very much to everyone, and appreciate your time this evening in service of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Wonderful July, everyone.
Everyone.
Stay safe.